Hi everyone, welcome back to our Cloud Development Environment 101 series. The last few videos were fairly technical in nature. Let's shift back to the more conceptual side of CDEs. This installment is all about choice. We'll outline the things you need to consider when choosing a CDE. We won't talk about specific solutions or offerings. Rather, we'll take a look at the three most common CDE deployment methods. Software as a service, where a vendor or a service provider hosts and maintains the CDE, your workspaces, and all the data. Self-hosted vendor-maintained, where the CDE, workspaces, and data are hosted on your infrastructure, but a vendor has remote access and performs all of the maintenance. And finally, self-hosted self-maintained, where everything is hosted and controlled by you. Let's start by addressing free-to-use CDEs. Most providers and vendors do offer a free-to-use tier that's fully functional and usable for smaller teams and projects. For larger development shops, free tier offerings are a great way to introduce CDE functionality to your team, but as your CDE usage increases, you'll need the advanced scaling and governance features that the paid enterprise tiers offer. So if your CDE could grow to 50 or more developers, considering these advanced features from the start will ease any scaling issues you may see in the future. Suffice to say, this comparison is focused on paid enterprise tier offerings only. Let's start with the basics. These features are table stakes for the category. Any CDE will offer accelerated onboarding times, higher performance compute than what is typically available on a laptop, multiple workspaces that are tailored to specific projects or use cases, reduced time maintaining the development environment. This is for both the developer and the developer support teams. The ability to properly size your CDE, no matter the size of your development team. And all CDEs include features to extend the workspace to some degree. Please note that there are variations in the extensibility from solution to solution. For example, one CDE may not support your team's preferred IDE or workspace OS, so you need to verify this with your vendor. Moving on to some of the more application architectural considerations, we'll start to see some differences between the three categories. When considering integration with your existing systems, such as identity providers, version control, and monitoring, a SaaS offering may or may not work. If the CDE is offered as a value add to another SaaS offering or a cloud computing platform, most likely it is designed to work with that provider's systems. But if it's a pure play CDE, and your systems are available externally, then it's probably an option. So let's mark that as a maybe. For both self-hosted offerings, since the CDE exists within your infrastructure, it is very likely that they will integrate with your existing systems. So let's mark those both as yes. Workspace hardware tiering is the ability to give different groups of devs the hardware they need without excessive provisioning slack. For example, a JavaScript dev may only need a single CPU instance with a gig of memory, but on the other hand, an AI/ML dev may need multiple CPU cores, tons of RAM, and GPU cores. SaaS is marked as a maybe here. While it's not completely out of scope for SaaS, it highly depends on the hardware provisioning policies of the provider and the specifics of the offering. But for the self-hosted offerings, since you control the platform they run on, you control the hardware the devs get. Security-minded customers such as finance, healthcare, gov, and tech take data sovereignty very seriously. It's the ability to completely control where your IP is used, stored, and backed up. Since SaaS, by nature, relies on an external provider's infrastructure, data sovereignty is simply not possible. On the other hand, self-hosting implies that your IP is stored on a system that you have complete control over. Therefore, data sovereignty is an option. 100% offline ability. Obviously, not possible with SaaS, and only partially possible with a vendor-maintained solution. Yes, the CDE could live in a restricted environment, but external access such as a VPN is needed to allow the vendor to connect. The only way to have a fully offline CDE is to self-host and self-maintain. When it comes to maintenance windows, SaaS users are at the mercy of the provider. I marked vendor-maintained as a maybe here. It all depends on the options the vendor offers. Self-maintained is the only option that allows you complete control over the maintenance schedule. Platform hosting trends change slowly, but are definitely fluid. I've been around for a while. I've seen enterprises shift from on-prem, eschewing public cloud at all cost, to hybrid, to all public, and now have even noticed some enterprises repatriating some systems. So, where you can host and run your CDE, whether now or 5 years from now, is a major consideration when choosing a CDE for an enterprise. Public cloud is always a choice for any of the 3 categories. Multi-region support is a yes across the board as well. Any of the 3 categories will have some way, even if it is simply running separate instances, to provision workspaces in region with your developers. I group private and hybrid clouds into the same category, since a hybrid cloud by definition has both public and private infrastructure components. SaaS by nature won't have a private or a hybrid cloud offering since you are dependent on the provider's infrastructure. Vendor maintained is marked as a maybe here. While it's possible to have a vendor maintained CDE on a private or hybrid cloud, some vendors may only support a specific public cloud provider, and that severely limits or even nullifies the private option. So it's important to check if this is a feature you may want down the road. A self-hosted, self-maintained solution is the only way to guarantee that you can run your CDE on a private cloud or a hybrid cloud. I put multi-cloud into its own row since it's a little more nuanced. Hybrid cloud is defined as running the same compute platform across a private data center and a public cloud, while multi-cloud is defined as running an application across a combination of compute providers or even compute platforms. Think spanning your CDE and its workspaces across multiple public Kubernetes and VM providers. SaaS offerings that are a value add for a cloud provider are a definite no here. And even those SaaS offerings that are a pure play CDE, the workspace is run on the cloud provider that the service provider has chosen. So perhaps a SaaS CDE could technically be multi-cloud from the provider standpoint, but the user won't have a choice. So it's a no in this context. Vendor maintained and self-maintained are marked as maybes here, since it's all down to what the vendor will support. If you are already a multi-cloud shop, definitely talk to your potential vendors to see if they support your providers. Shifting away from the performance and technical considerations, let's now look at cost components. As mentioned in the opening of this video, most vendors offer a free-to-use tier that's great for smaller teams or as a proof of value for larger organizations. This installment is solely focused on paid-for offerings. As with all the features we've reviewed so far, these are absolutely crucial considerations when choosing an enterprise-grade CDE. Even if the cost is the most nebulous consideration, as much of it depends on usage and vendor agreements. SaaS runs on the provider's infrastructure, so the cost is rolled into usage charges. Both self-hosted options require you to bring your own infrastructure, public or private. It's safe to say that a SaaS offering will never offer a fixed cost option. Self-hosted solutions will have a per-seat component to the overall cost. This may seem repetitive, but it bears mentioning. SaaS providers will charge on a pay-as-you-go model, making it difficult, if not impossible, to govern spending as your CDE grows. The self-hosted categories may also have an additional usage cost on top of the per-seat cost. For example, one vendor may charge a fixed price per developer, while another may have a lower per developer cost but also charge per workspace. This final consideration is impossible to pin down per category, so they are all marked as a maybe. But I included it as food for thought. Some solutions offer cost control mechanisms such as per space CPU and memory limits, quotas to limit the workspaces per user, or even controls that will stop or even delete idle or dormant workspaces. Check with your potential vendors to see what their solutions offer. Thanks for checking out this video. If you have any suggestions, please leave us a comment below. Also have a look at Coder.com for an overview of Coder's enterprise-ready CDE, and check out our GitHub page, github.com/coder, to stay up to date with our projects, roadmap, and latest releases. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for our next and final video of our Cloud Development Environment 101 series, where we will talk about Coder and why it makes a great CDE for enterprise users.